In this example, we're going to look at how to rescale Desmos and how to move the graph so that you can see a particular window. So if, for example, your graph wants you to focus, or your situation equation wants you to focus on quadrant one is considered to be in the upper quadrant over here. So it's where the x values and y values are both positive. So I can click and hold my left mouse button down and drag the graph over, and so that I can get a better picture of what's going on in quadrant one. If I click the house button, it defaults back into a zoom that's going to have a variety of negative and positive values on both input and output. So I'm going to click and drag this over here again to see what it would look like in quadrant one. And sometimes that's the case where you only want to look in the first quadrant, so you want to be able to adjust your graph. Now, also sometimes you want to change the graph to be able to see specific inputs or outputs. And so the graph settings up here will allow us to change to see specific input and output values. So for example, if you wanted to see specifically between 0 on x and 20 on x, then I could type 0 as the minimum and then 20 as the maximum. Sometimes, since 0 is right here on this edge right here, I can't see what's going on around 0, and 20 is right on the upper edge, and my toolbar kind of cuts over what's happening there. Sometimes if you want to see 0 and 20, you might actually want to go a few items around this. So I might want to say -5 to 25, just so that I can see left and right, and I can see 0 more centered up here, 20 more centered up here, and then I can actually see what's happening up there as well. So occasionally you'll want to widen the scale a little bit so that you can actually see what's going on. And if going 5 over is too much, you could cut this down to -1 and then 21. And so you could at least, see the 20 value. It's underneath my plus symbol right here. But you could pick it up and pull it if you weren't in the view that you wanted to be in. You can do the same thing for y. If you wanted to look a bit larger, in this scale, I've moved 0 to 20 on x. If I wanted to go from, say, 0 up to 20 on y, I could do the same thing. I could increase the y value up to 20, or whatever value I wanted to make sure I could see values in my graph. So the zoom in and zoom out buttons are also useful. If I zoom in, though, it's going to kind of zoom square on your window, so it zooms in or zooms out based on what you currently are viewing. It won't zoom out in one direction only. So if there is just one direction you want to change, you're going to want to manually scale this. Okay. Some of the other things in here that I don't use as often are step size for the axis. So right now it's labeling every 5. If I wanted it to label every 1, I could put 1 for my step, and now I can see clearly defined what the values are for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up. I can change those. If I wanted to see halves, for example, I could do 0.5, and then I would see a few labels, although if I'm zoomed out too far, it's not going to do all of them. If I zoom back over to 10, and zoom in, I might get my halves. Oh yeah, I do have my halves right there. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, and so on. But for the most part, I generally let it scale itself by not putting anything in the step size, but if I am looking for something that is a particular step, I can change it.